Hey, Dr. Rob,
Hey, Tammy, I heard some news today. I
which
heard
is,
that
yeah.
this particular podcast has had over a quarter of a million people listen to it.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, what he's talking about, and I was going to talk about podcasts too. So, what he's talking about is these recordings, not all of them, but a number of them are posted on our website under the Overcoming Addiction and Betrayal podcast series. I was going to mention separately that a new two parts one and two podcast just launched with from betrayed partners. They were gracious and shared some of their journey, and I've heard good things about it. I have not had a chance. I was very busy today, so I didn't have a chance to listen to it. But that's on sex, love, and addiction. So you can find our podcasts, both of them, well, three of them, on the Seeking Integrity site. You'll see, ways to get over there.
Resources.
Yes, tons of resources, free, low cost, and then expert residential treatment. But I'm anxious to hear that they were willing and vulnerable and shared their story, and I think it will be meaningful to others on this journey. Separately, you a while ago did a um, uh, did you type that in the chat
Just
to
let them know where
everyone?
to find the podcast if they were looking for it.
Yeah, but you sent it to me directly. You didn't send it to everyone. So
Oh, well,
uh,
there's your chance to just get it
well, I
right.
have to copy and paste. Yeah, anyway,
Okay,
so I will
I will
get to
do.
that in a
Go
moment. I
ahead.
have to stay focused. So, separately, you had done a while ago a conversation with several people who are addicts on the
Right.
journey. Now, so that one's posted too. There's a number. So Overcoming Betrayal and Addiction has had like 275,000 downloads. His Sex, Love, and Addiction, I haven't looked in a while, but had about 1.4 million downloads and has a number of experts on different topics and things. So, all of these are free resources for you to engage with, to get some education and learning. So, I will put the link for the podcast on the site or in the chat in a moment. But we do have a question, so I'm going to get to
Just
that,
want to say one quick thing about that.
please.
So some of you know, and by the way, Tammy and I are amazing, wonderful. We already know that. You don't have to tell us. But this is not the primary podcast for Seeking Integrity. The primary podcast is Sex, Love, and Addiction, and that one we have almost a million and a half. I don't know, lots and
No,
lots
that's
of
what I just said. We have almost
right.
1.4 million downloads on sex, love, and addiction. So I mentioned
And
that. So we have Overcoming Betrayal and Addiction, which has had
right,
about 275,000, and that's off of these. So that's just, a reformulation of that. But Sex, Love, and Addiction is the one that I just mentioned that had the two betrayed partners that shared their story. And previously we had the addict. So, and I just put the
right.
link. You can find those. And then Dr. David Fawcett's podcast series has a number of conversations for men who have had sex with men. That's
Mm-hmm.
the um,
The
theme of
theme.
his.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say, and Tammy was recommending this, and she was right. I have probably 100 and some odd podcasts with professionals, and to be able to sit down with a couple of addicts and really hear them tell their story. And then I got to say, the addicts are okay, but the spouses who did their podcast that we just put up are just, they're really amazing. And interestingly, and I'll just say this, the two ladies who did this, one of them wrote us, and she said, I really think it went well, and I feel good about it. She said, and then my husband and I listened to it. And despite the fact that I had been talking about my relationship and the work that he and I had been through, stuff came up that we ended up talking about. And I will say that one of the gifts of the podcast was two. One is to grow and learn. The other is to stay sober. I hear a lot of people who say, I just listened to the podcast on my way to work, so I didn't stop off somewhere. I hear a lot of spouses say, I'm in a relationship and I made him or her listen to the whole thing. So again, Tammy says free resources, sex, love, and addiction is one of them, and probably I would say the most popular. So please join me and whoever comes on. Okay, what you got, Tammy? You got
Okay.
questions?
So the first question is, since there is no crosstalk in 12-step groups, attending online, no in-person available, and sponsor is really only there to guide on steps, where are addicts supposed to be looking for accountability for acting out sobriety, and to whom for emotional sobriety? A therapist? What if you can't afford therapy currently? What do you look to then? Thank you. And I'm not 100% sure if this is the person who's going to the 12 steps or if this is a partner. So let's just We'll just answer the
Well,
question. So,
well, Tammy, I think, this is I don't mean to say easy, but we run free support groups and we run them for spouses of all different types and we run them for addicts of all different types. And these are not 12-step meetings. These are supported, guided um, discussions, sorry, they're support groups that are moderated and supported by therapists who are volunteering their time. And it's not a 12-step meeting. And there is room for people to exchange phone numbers or people to ask a question, and these groups can be anywhere from 8 to 10 to 40, but they don't have that kind of structure that you see in a 12-step meeting. And we did that purposely so that people could connect, so that they could ask questions of each other. Now it's moderated, so y'all can't start yelling at each other, but there is an opportunity you can meet someone in that room and say, I'm going to start emailing you and hold you account and get your accountability. By the way, Tammy, do you want to talk about the way that accountability does work in a 12-step program? It may not work in the room, but
well, and I posted because our colleague Scott and I did a webinar specifically on 12 step. And while you say there are no 12 step local, I have
right.
a hard time believing that. And we have resources on our website, like about one of the challenges with S groups is there's 12 of them. I don't know exactly. I'd have to count, but there's SLAA, SPAA, SA, SAA, PA, PAA, SCA. I mean, and on and on. I forgot some. So navigating that and how to find, and even if there's only one local SLAA and there's one SCA, go to both of those. It doesn't, it's different than AA where everybody goes to AA. If you've got alcohol, there's not, but there's CA for, Cocaine Anonymous. So please take a look at that separately. And I will put that on as well. The drop-in groups, as Dr. Rob said, those are live hosted. And there's a person, it's not just about not, yelling at each other, but it's also making sure that the tone is correct and we're not bashing our partners, on either side, whether it's a partner group or an addict group. We are not bashing others in the group. We are holding a safe space. I'm going to post too separately. It's low cost, but the online work groups are a great place.
You for
And many of the, well, he left. He'll be back. Hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. I don't see my internet being off. So the online work groups are a safe place, and many people peer connect with those as well. You don't have to, but that's another opportunity. So I'm going to post that. But we've got Sex Addiction 101, Porn Addiction 101. We've got Betrayed Partners. We've got Attachment Wounds. We've got Inner Child. We've got a number of different online work groups that are also another place. Low cost, there's a fee for them, but most of them are like $395 for an entire 6-week course, live facilitated 90 minutes per week. So you get great foundational components, but you also are connecting with other people, limited and done via Zoom. So we have lots of ways to do this. But I do want to speak to the no crosstalk. There are groups also, even if they're online, that have time before or after. Because like if you go to a live meeting, you can go early and you can chat with people, you can stay after, and they create a space where you can chat, and a sponsor isn't just for like just working the steps, but actually working the steps is how we do life. And so real life stuff would be coming up and all that. Many sponsors are just checking, like it's a check-in too. How's your day going? It isn't just like, I'm working step 4, so what do I need to do? So I feel like there's an opportunity for understanding more. Again, please take a listen to that webinar that was posted it was from the 7th of February, that talks, a really good primer in 12 step. But lean into the drop-in groups, lean into I'm glad you're here, but you'll connect with real people, in drop-in groups and those online work groups. I think you'll find it useful too.
And I just want to add one thing, Tammy, which is Just because there's no crosstalk doesn't mean that I can't say to someone, can I talk to you later? Or can I get
Hmm.
these kind of individual relationships are what it's about, and whether it's online in those before and after moments, but especially in a live meeting, if I hear someone say something I like, I go up to them and say, wow, I like what you said. I want to do that too, or I want to learn from you. I have found people to be accountable with me at a meeting and say, if I call you once a night, is that okay? It's a gift to them. It supports them. So yeah, there's lots of places you can go for accountability that you don't have to raise your hand in a meeting and say, well, what Joe said. There's a lot of other ways to do that.
Yeah, and honestly, there's lots of different 12 steps. I personally like some of them where we do a little bit of crosstalk. And so, I found groups that, accommodate that, on some degree. So, I mean, there's smaller groups. They're not the, 150 people in a meeting. So don't stop looking is part of my, and a therapist, on some level, maybe you can't afford a therapist, maybe you can, getting the right therapist. Some of them, if you really are in a financial issue, some of them have a certain a number of sessions at a sliding scale or whatever. So there's opportunities with that too. Not everyone, and they've worked really hard to get their fees. So I mean, they need to be very heavily boundaried with that. But for people who truly need it, some have the opportunity to navigate that too. Okay, Dr. Rob, next question. My husband has 40 plus years porn addiction, which has escalated a few times. He's been in recovery for about a year. He's now turned to shopping, which has been a problem off and on his whole life. Does shopping addiction have a correlation to his SA? Should I be concerned about SA relapse?
Why don't you take it on and start, Tammy? I think that that would be helpful.
So what I hear is somebody who hasn't addressed the underlying issues. One of the things I love about our residential treatment program is just stopping this problematic behavior is truly the top layer. It really is only the top layer. So addressing the underlying issues, and yes, shopping, gaming, whether there's porn in there or not, food, smoking, vaping, alcohol. I mean, whatever it is, anything I'm using compulsively to numb out. And yes, and shopping actually, gambling has a huge financial toll. And for many people, their financial situation is compromised as a result. So what I hear is he's abstinent from porn, and that's a start. But I don't know what he's doing for his journey. But if he's not working with a qualified professional, not going to 12-step meetings, not doing anything to heal those underlying issues, then then now he's found another place to get his dopamine, fix. And shopping is very engaged. It's very addictive, for many people. So, and that's one of the things, like I said, that we do screen across, for guys coming into our residential treatment program. So, here, my suggestion is, don't just be concerned about his SA. Be concerned about his he's not in real recovery. He's just stopped one problematic behavior. And we call it kind of the whack-a-mole, or I call it the garbage can addiction. It's like, I can't do this one right now, so I'll do this one, and if I can't do that, I'll do that one, and just keep going through everything. So him getting help to stop all the problematic behaviors would be the most optimal for him and for you, because clearly that's got to be a problem for you as well.
So Tammy, I'm a little lost. I have 510. I know what
Yeah, I
happened.
think
I
when you,
left to
yeah,
come back
okay.
in,
So let
and
me
that's
put
why
this
I
in
can't see
answered,
this.
and then you'll be able to see it. Okay, you should be able to see
Okay,
it now.
great.
So it
Let's
should be the
see.
second one at
40 year.
503. Yes, now you
Okay.
can see it. Okay, I will do that with the rest of them too. So
Well, I think I just simply need to repeat what Tammy said, which is, first of all, you don't know, he may have had this issue before. It shows up in lots of different ways. People gamble, people do all kinds of things. And Tammy's metaphor of a whack-a-mole, I think, is a very good one. Um, I don't, what did I want to say? I think that working on addiction is inclusive of all of our challenges. And one of the things that I would say to you is there anything he's hiding? Because that would be a sign of addiction to me. And what is the issue with that? Yes, it's been a problem on and off all of his life. Addiction is addiction. So in directly correlation, look, addiction is about soothing myself, about comforting myself, about making myself feel valued and important. I got to tell you, sex was great when I was acting out, because you can't deny the addiction worked when it worked. Been a long time since I did that. But I'll tell you what, every time that little Amazon box comes, I feel like it's Christmas. Like, oh, a
Mm,
package came and it's for
interesting.
me, and I get to open it. And so, I do understand the immediate hit that comes with that. With that thing arriving, but it's the same empty filling yourself up all the time with really nothing. So yes, the addictive process is still going forward. And a 40-year addiction, what I don't hear, Tammy, and she might have mentioned it, is how many meetings does he go to? What kind of therapy is he? And what actions is he taking? Because it would very quickly come up in any addiction program that there's other things going on. So I hear the problem. About a year. What does that mean? He's been in recovery a year. He hasn't been. I'm worried a little bit that there's a lot of vagueness here, and I'm not sure exactly what is being done. I hear the possible problem. I'm not hearing anything about a solution.
Yeah, and I hear not acting out with porn, but I hear, but now I'm doing shopping. So to me, that is not recovery; it's abstinence from porn, And and I know that sounds so harsh. I had a friend who was actually harsher on things like that,
No.
on boundaries and accountability. But it's one of those things, in the 12 step, we talk about being happy, joyous, and free, and we're not happy, joyous, and free if we just switch to another form of problematic behavior. So it really is, he's got decades, of acting out behavior, and a year of not doing porn is fantastic. But if he's just doing something else, to substitute, then he's just doing something else that, can, and he's still disconnected from you, and he's still disconnected from himself. That's the bigger
And maybe
loss.
still
So,
on the computer.
yeah.
He may not be
Oh, yeah.
wandering around
Yeah.
malls. He may be sitting for hours and hours doing this instead of that. By the way, this is the last thing I would ask you to think about is whose money is it? Do you share that money? Because I know when I make a financial decision, any amount over that is agreed on with my partner, whether that's $50 or $500, anything over that, I have to come to them and say. So if I bought more than two things in a week, I might have to go to you and say, you know what? It's our money. It's not my money. And I need to discuss with you. You're not my parole officer, but it's your money too. And I don't care whether you have the money or you don't have the money, because it's not about the money. It's about being honest with your spouse about where you're coming from. That's all any spouse wants. I can tell you, I talk to you all the time. And the one thing that you want more than anything is honesty. What is going on? And this behavior just sends you spinning back into, I don't know what he's doing. Where's the money going? What's going on? That's not healthy for the relationship. So, should we keep going, Tammy?
Yeah, I agree. But yes, we should continue. And I agree. So, okay, betrayed partner
Thank
here.
you.
My SA husband has been meeting with his pastor counselor for about 6 weeks, once a week. About a month ago, I met with him virtually and expressed how I'd like to see transparency and the lying manipulation to stop. The counselor says slip ups and manipulation are part of addiction and I can't expect perfection. However, I don't know how they expect me to come back when been visiting family. Boundary is I won't go back until he shows concrete change and shows an environment safe to go back to when full transparency isn't even on the table yet. I feel I shouldn't have to wait until a certain point to in our separate healing for transparency. This counselor is not a CSAT and doesn't want my husband to go to support groups. Oh gosh, at this point in recovery, as they are sometimes damaging, which is one of my conditions for coming back.
Well, I
You
want
know
to
how
just
you talk
comment on
about in
that.
presentations, like my hair is on
Well,
fire?
well, I think there's a lot of information here we could talk
Yes.
about. I don't
Yes,
have any
please do.
hair, so I can't say that, but there's a lot going on here. The first thing that crosses my mind is what information is coming back to you about this? Don't go to support groups. Don't go to all of this. Is this something that the pastor has said to you, or is this something that your husband said or your partner said? Oh, the therapist told me to do this or not do that. By the way, have you heard? Did I have this right, Tammy? Have you
She
heard?
said I met with the counselor. So
Okay,
she, yeah, no,
so
because it says the
right,
about a month ago I met with them
right,
virtually and
okay.
expressed. So
So, and just for the rest of you, we lie just to say it. And just because since I made the point, just because one of us comes back and says, well, my therapist said, doesn't mean that we did. Don't blame us therapists, um, unless you've heard it from us directly. So there's so much I can say about this. I guess I want to say the easiest thing to say is um, if I broke my foot, And I went to my GP, and he or she said, you're going to need to see an orthopedist. Those are the people you see about your feet, right? I would go to the orthopedist. I appreciate my GP. Boy, do I get the right vaccines. I get my health checks every year. If I have a little thing on my head, or I hurt, broke, I will go see them. But something major like this, and I need to go see a specialist. To me, a spiritual counselor, pastor is in addition to the work. This is a therapy process. I wouldn't send someone, please forgive me, those of you extremely religious, I don't mean anything about your beliefs, but if someone was schizophrenic or so depressed they couldn't get out of bed, I wouldn't consider that necessarily to be something that someone could heal by seeing a pastor. I think if you have a mental health problem, you have to see a mental health professional. If you have an addiction problem, you have to see an addiction professional. And then that spiritual counselor and pastor comes in behind that. Now, there are a lot of people, and we've had some of them. We have someone who has served as a spiritual counselor for us, but he doesn't do the therapy part. So it's in conjunction, it's and with, not either or. So I agree with you. I don't agree, by the way, that it damages someone to have to face the truth. I think it helps people to hear other people say things that are uncomfortable and they don't want to hear. I think, now I don't know what you mean by transparency. I think I do. In the healing process, in the therapy process, there is a process where that person has to come to you and give you their whole history of acting out. We call that a disclosure. But even in terms of transparency, in recovery, if I really have a slip, I have to go to my spouse and say, this happened. If I looked in the wrong direction, or I look at the wrong thing online and nothing happens and I don't pursue it, and that may be different. But if I get involved with this person or this sexual act or that porn, I have to tell you, because you don't get to sit back and I'm thinking, oh, this is a good evening because I didn't tell her. So this isn't true. So I want to know the difference between transparency and lying, which is transparency is, I don't want to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this. Not saying it is lying by omission. So I am concerned that this counselor, as many of us, let me say one more thing. Therapists are in some ways uniquely focused on the needs of the person in front of us. If we're really good at what we do, I can put myself aside as much as I can and really focus on you. But I have to be trained in what I'm doing and know how to do it. Most counselors and therapists are very focused on telling me what's going on and what have you been through and how are you feeling and what happened in your family and how's it going with your wife. And we're really good at talking about the issues. You come in and you're depressed. You come in and you're thinking about being in a relationship. We're really, really good. But addiction, it takes direction, it takes concrete structure, and it takes the right kind of person who isn't just listening in a nurturing way. We do that. But you also have to, as a therapist, as an addiction therapist, say, cut that out, or that's not okay, or you do need to talk to her, or you know what? What's important here is that your wife is upset and she's worried. And instead of trying to protect what you think is good for you, why don't you help her feel better? So on every level, what I hear is that I think your husband is getting great nurturing support from a therapist, but that's not what's needed here. That's not what's needed. What's needed is someone who's very direct, very engaged, very trained. This is a real specialty area. Most therapists, as Tammy will tell you, we don't even know how to talk about sex. Half the time I'm doing a course that's coming up and I have to teach the therapist, okay, be ready for this. I have to get everyone in the class, we're talking about 45 therapists, to say the word masturbation, just to say it, no less than to ask about it. So those of us who are trained in sexuality, very few. Those of us trained in addiction, not so many. Those of us who are trained in both, very, very few. Tammy is TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. And if Tammy is really great about reaching out and giving you good therapist names, I don't think the spiritual work is unnecessary or unhelpful. I think it's very important, but there still has to be a structure in place for addiction healing and for that direction. And I think the therapist thinks they're doing exactly what they need to do, but they're treating a broken leg, but they're only good with an arm, basically. So
well, and they say pastor counselor, and to me, I suspect that this is a counseling pastor and not a mental health therapist. And this is high acuity stuff, like Dr. Rob said. You want, you want the specialist in this area, and some, what sets my hair on fire is that it's damaging. I
Right.
don't know one 12-step group that is damaging. And I put in the chat. So on February 7th, Scott and I did a tutorial on 12 steps, and we addressed the myths, like, oh, my husband's going to learn more acting out behavior if he goes there, or whatever. We talked about every myth we could think of, and we'll welcome more if somebody thinks of others. But like, we need connection. Going to see somebody who is quasi trained, maybe in this field once a week, when it's a 24/7 issue. Like, addiction is a 24/7 issue. Like, the underlying issues, the acting out is the surface. What are the underlying issues? Why am I choosing to go off and do whatever I'm doing in my acting out behavior, rather than having a conversation with my partner, telling my partner I'm really feeling agitated right now, or I'm feeling bored, and I want to go shop, whatever it is. I could have a communication. I could talk to my sponsor. I can do whatever else rather than choose the acting out behavior. But we don't in active addiction. As far as the lying, and I get it, but he's 6 weeks of not acting out, and let's give him a little credit for that. But he isn't, he doesn't have
Maybe.
any real, yeah, maybe. I'm being generous. I'm being, my gracious assumption is he has 6 weeks of not acting out. So, and he is not getting enough support to be able to internalize any of those things. Expecting an addict, like Dr. Rob said, expecting us to be truthful right off the bat, it isn't going to happen. That said, we can learn tools to come back to you and tell you the truth, pretty quickly. We can learn those things pretty quickly. But if he's not even getting, coaching on that aspect of it, I don't refer, I'll be honest, I don't refer to coaches. I refer to qualified mental health professionals, because this is a mental health issue. And so getting the right help is a game changer. But now I'm going to flip this. What support are you getting? Because
Mm.
honestly, you have no control. An amazing empowered women's retreat. It took me days to, start or stop crying, because I would tear up at stuff, the emotion. And I was just there. I wasn't even doing work, but it was so amazing to see the healing the women had. And you know what? The focus was on them and the healing. It wasn't on him. It was about them and what they, what care they needed. And so I'm going to invite you, what healthy boundaries? I hear that you're separated, so that's a physical boundary, but what support are you getting from a qualified professional to support you with a betrayal trauma, with your healthy boundaries for your safety, all of those things. And I would welcome, you emailing Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. Let me know where you're located and what you need, and I'll help you get that. Because, he can choose his journey, and you can choose your boundaries around that. So
I want to add one more thing, and I hope that the spouses are listening. I don't give a, can I say, I don't give a rat's ass whether he's uncomfortable. I'm so, so sorry.
yes,
I don't care if he's going through a therapy experience that's damaging. Poor baby. What about you? What about what you've been through? What about the lying and the cheating and the manipulation and the destruction of your vows and commitments? I'm more worried about the pain that you're in. And it's frustrating to me that this pastor counselor, as we are focused on the person in front of us, that's true, but you're the person who's had the most damage here. And to protect his client from being open with you and healing your relationship and focusing on the real pain, that's like treating somebody as a bank robber and saying, well, I know you're having a hard day and it's a good thing you got some money in the bank. You're not being considered. And that really concerns me. I know we have
but
lots of
no,
questions.
I know, but I'm going to take that. But even if you are gracious and generous with that, guess what? It doesn't serve the person sitting in front of you if you are not helping them navigate the relationship. So I think it's a really poor option, because Dr. Rob, you're such a good boy and all that kind of stuff, and I want to help you, but you're not really changing. And so then the rest of your life is chaos. You're not really getting better. You're not getting different. You're not getting the support to move forward in a healthy way. It doesn't help you. It's not a service to you. It just feels better, because you're sitting there going, oh, somebody's saying nice things about me. So it doesn't help. So,
And there's one
okay,
more thing.
please.
Now your husband can say to you, well, I'm going to therapy. I'm really
Yes.
working on this.
Yes.
When, and make, a lot of folks easily make excuses about, well, I'm doing this and I'm going to this one thing, and just to
Yeah.
shut you up. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you that you're not there, by the way. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you're not living there. You are taking care of you. Okay.
Okay. Hi, thank you for all your podcasts. I have a partner that has acted out with prostitute affairs, and I just found out he is using porn. He is also going to websites looking at prostitutes. He has been with trans men as well as, I believe, with other men. He does not think he's a sex addict and does not think he needs to do any kind of work. He thinks he can do it by himself, like he quit smoking cigarettes. He said he hasn't been with anyone else in 2 years, but I found him reaching out to trans men 4 months ago. What can I do? I have left him for the past month. I did give him out of the doghouse 3 months ago, but he's only on chapter 6. That is not a hard read. So I can't hear you. Talk again. I think your earbuds just, I see your lips moving, but I
Okay.
can't. Now I can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
I just got rid of the AirPods. I probably need to be charged.
Okay.
So, so I just want to make it, I want to differentiate something here
Uh
because there
huh.
are two different things going on here. One is who this person is having sex with. Now,
Mm
it's not okay if you're married and committed a relationship to have sex with anybody else, at least not until your partner says you go do that if that's what they want to do. But it's not okay for me to act out sexually. That is what it is. The fact that I might be interested in sex with men or have feelings about trans men or trans women, that's not an addiction. Acting on it. So addiction is lying, cheating, keeping secrets, manipulating, trying to shut you up, and acting out sexually without your knowing any about it. But addiction is not the fact that one thing turns him on or another thing turns him on. And the reason I'm saying that is because there are people who say, oh, I'm into trans porn, and that makes me an addict because it's the trans porn that is addictive. No, it's the porn that is addictive. It doesn't really matter what kind in terms of who you are. What matters is you're lying, you're cheating, you're so if I were involved with you, I would be very honest and I would say, I think I have some kind of addiction problem, whatever. And then I would say, but I have these other interests and I seem to be pursuing them in a very addictive way. And can we talk about both of those things? I would want to understand what does it mean to him that he's been with trans men? What does it mean to him that he's having sex with other people? With men. I know what it means to you to be lied to, cheated on, manipulated. So out of the doghouse, by the way, and I'll say this, I really want you guys to get this. I wrote a book called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. I wrote this book because men do not understand how to heal betrayal in a woman. They do not understand that flowers and candy and moonbeams aren't going to, or it's been 3 months, aren't going to make you feel better having been betrayed as a woman. So I said to the guys, here, this is how you make peace with your female partner, and this is what you need to do to help them feel safe. But every man who wants to take one of our work groups runs to that group because what they learn there is, oh, this is how I make my wife feel better. This is how I make my partner feel better. And I want them to feel better. And I want them to not feel bad about this. And I know I want to be better, more charming and more engaging. And that's not what this is about. If you're an addict, you take the course in sex addiction, in porn addiction, you learn about your problem first, and then begin to look at how you can help your relationship heal. So I'm going back to the men in particular that I work with who really want to say to their spouses, oh, I've been working on this. I just took a course. I spent $385 or whatever it is on this course, and we met 6 times. Well, we think the psychoeducation is really important. Sex Addiction 101, partner betrayal, the partner betrayal work group. We have a bunch of them, but the one for Doghouse and is really for men who have achieved a level of healing which is true and real, and that they can then go back and begin to think, how can I repair my relationship without being defensive, without pushing them away? How can I listen to what they have to say because I hurt them? So beware of the man who has taken out of the doghouse but hasn't really looked at his own issues, because really what he's done is just learn 5, 6 different ways to be more charming and sound like he's doing well. So, Tammy, do you have thoughts about that? I wanted them to
Well,
get that.
I love all of that. I added the Out of the Doghouse work group, but yeah, for me, it would be start with Sex Addiction 101. But I added to our chat on the Seeking Integrity site, there's a quick, self assessment, and he can take it when, he's our Seeking Integrity residential treatment program is a non-smoke, non-vape facility because smoking and vaping, is problematic and keeps the dopamine going. Dr. David Fawcett has done webinars and talked about that at length. But I had to just because I had to just look. So chapter 6, let's just talk about 3 months. That starts on page 99 and goes to page 112 of a 191 page easy to read book. I mean, this is not a difficult read. So what I hear is a lack of any kind of commitment to doing anything to move your relationship forward or to help with things. So as Dr. Rob said, the lot lies in who he's looking at, who he's reaching out to. It's still he's got a whole secret life that he's not being truthful about. So I would invite you and obviously him, but you can probably mostly check off the boxes for him, on the online self-assessment. And just like I did with the last one, what are you doing to take care of you? What are your healthy boundaries, for your safety? It's not based on what he's doing or not doing. This is about, these are my needs. And if he's unable to step into that space, then we talked a ton about this at the retreat, but we've got webinars on it too. Internal boundaries, external boundaries, for safety. So I'm really sorry, but yeah, that's somebody who is, I could stop at any time. I hear this all the time. I could stop at any time. Well, then do, and don't switch to something else. You? Right. Yeah. Why are you continuing to do it? So,
and I just really want to reinforce what Tammy said. Reading this, it's a lot about him. And I understand that you don't understand it and you want to make it better and you love this person and you can't believe, and he's trying to justify and manage. But the things he's saying to you, he said, I haven't done it. And he lied to you. He said it's easy to quit, but he hasn't. So my concern is it's all lip service and you're more focused on him trying to make his lies true or trying to make his truths, whatever it is, rather than trusting your gut, which is this a safe place for me to put my heart? Yeah, you'll know the
and
answer.
Addiction escalates. So understand wherever he is now, if he doesn't get help, it will be, a different, more taboo kind of porn. It will be, I'm now going to hook up with people, whatever it is, it tends to escalate. So, okay. So the next one, Dr. Rob. Hi, I've been out of SILA for 10 months and I'm taking it day by day. And I'm very grateful to be sober for 16 months. My partner would like me to tell my siblings that I am an addict and I'm not a good person. I presently have a good relationship with my siblings. My partner will not be around my siblings and have it feel like everything is normal. Please advise as to whether I should be telling my siblings that I am a sex and porn addict. I am doing my steps, but I have not reached step 9 yet.
Well, this is I think something I kind of want to go through point by point.
Please.
Your partner's discomfort and upset, I completely understand. Her lack of safety, I think it's her, being around your siblings and them not knowing anything is going on, I can understand their feelings. I don't think that just telling them is going to make anything better. There's never going to be another Thanksgiving, another Christmas. How is it going to affect whether they want you around their kids? Because when someone says sex problem, everybody freaks out. My concern is, I wonder whether your partner wants to do this as a punishment, which is, I'll show you, I'm going to ruin your relationships with you. I'm going to not go through this on my own. I'm going to make other people who love you suffer and you with them. So I don't think that it is your partner's decision to make whether or not you talk to your siblings. I do think, however, that they have a reality and she has a reality and something is going on and it's uncomfortable and she doesn't want to hide herself. And I agree with that. You can tell them, we've been really having some relationship problems. It's been really hurtful. I have really hurt her. We've let each other down, or whatever you want to say. This is what we do with children. Yes, there is something going on. Yes, mommy and daddy are struggling, but we're not going to tell you about our sex life. And I do not think, these aren't, these are, how do I want to say this? These are not necessarily people who are going to help the situation or make it better. I do not think that there's any reason to tell your siblings about this. I think you can talk to them about the struggle. I can think you can talk to them about what you're working on with your spouse. I really be curious why it's so important to your partner to make sure they know this. And as I said, if she doesn't have to act normal, she can, number one, not come around. She can, number two, you guys can be really clear about there being problems. And by the way, I want to say something, and I have to say it. This person has been out of our treatment program for 10 months. And he has, he has, because we men's program, he's been sober for 16 months. That means he came in sober and working on this, really got the message, really did the work with us. And now these are higher level questions. I want you to hear that. You know, that's what treatment does. This man, I think it's a man. He is a man. He went through treatment
It
with us.
has to be a man. We
Sorry.
only work with men. So
This
yeah.
man is not saying, oh my God, I'm really struggling with acting out and I'm still lying to my partner. And she's still, this person is working with higher level issues like how do our families negotiate this? And how do me and my wife work this out? And this is not the basics of the struggle. And this is what treatment does. It takes people, and I'm incredibly grateful to have created 6 residential treatment programs. And this is one of them. And I love this. I love this because I hear 16 months sober. I have a question and I want to ask the right people so I get it right. I'm not being angry at them. I'm not just doing it something impulsively. I'm working on the steps. I'm not where I think I should be yet, which tells me you actually know what they are. So in this, I like everything that I'm hearing, except this kind of like, you do this or. I never think it, as Tam was talking about boundaries. I can say, I don't want to be around your siblings, or if you don't talk to them, whatever it is, but I can't tell you what to do. It's not, I can tell you what I want. I would feel more comfortable if, but what you decide to do is what you decide to do. And it's not okay for me to threaten. That is not going to help any of us. And as I said, by the way, no one's going to forget this 5 Thanksgivings from now. They're going to look at you and her and going to think, okay, well, what's going on there? And once you've said it, it cannot be unsaid. It's a good issue to bring into therapy, by the way, and talk about that. Tammy, do you have thoughts? I know we have a lot of questions
Oh,
today.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, and especially the moralizing that I'm not a good person, and why are you not a good person? I intentionally don't use good or bad. Like I think with addiction, we have behaviors that can be so hurtful and damaging. I 100% understand that, but we do it out of brokenness. I hear a person who's really working on healing and being a different person on a different path. And so if you are always labeled as a bad person for the rest of your life because of those behaviors, then really what hope is there? I would really, I love Dr. Rob's suggestion about this is good couples therapy. I'm curious why it is that you want me to do that and why you want me to say it that way. Like again, not we've been struggling, and so you might have noticed some tension around the two of us. It's us. We're working on it. Um, um, and I love one person shared, and I said, I'm going to use that for the kids. She said, we're working on bettering ourselves. I love that. We're working on bettering ourselves. It's got nothing to do. We're not talking about sex or porn or any of that acting out. We're just going, really working on bettering myself. I needed to do some personal work. I wanted to caveat on what Dr. Rob said too about he started 6 programs. There's still at least one program that is tying his name to their program. He has nothing to do with that program. They are not using, it's like they're still using his name, but they are not doing the work that he established at that program. So the only program of all the ones that, he's been part of in the past, Seeking Integrity Los Angeles is the only program, that Dr. Rob's curriculum is utilized, and Dr. Rob actually works with the clients too. So don't get the imposter, come get the real help. So, okay. That's my little speech. Okay, SA husband didn't feel the need to stop drinking, limit his social media devices access, or get rid of things used to act out. I had to get on him to do that. Now running into the issue of his job, putting him in a lot of bars. He may struggle with chemsex as he has major betrayals happened while drinking. He also works at bars with underdressed women. And again, he doesn't really see the issue, tries to say they don't work there anymore or schedule has changed. But why would he risk it? He's willing to give certain things up if I have an issue with them, but I'm very concerned that he doesn't see them as an issue. Are addicts really incapable of discerning these types of risks?
Well,
Yeah.
Um, a lot of times I think that you partners, in your effort to make our lives calmer or more focused in a way that we might not act out, in your attempt to tolerate things to help us or help the relationship, you put up with things that are not acceptable, and you buy into our lives. You buy into our lives. I have had men move to different states because there was an affair partner there. I have had men leave jobs because everyone knew at work. I have had men have to leave town because no one wanted to send kids over to their house because he'd been in the paper for an affair or for seeing a sex worker. It's shocking to me. Not shocking. I take that back. This is someone who doesn't get it. They are still running the show. They still do. What if they went and got a different job? What if they got a different career? What if they did something else? It's not just, they have a drug problem and they're hanging out with bars, struggle with chemsex, and all of the major betrayals happen while he's drinking, and he's working at a place that serves drinks. He has a sex problem and he's working at bars with underdressed women. I'm going to assume I know what that means. And he doesn't see any of it. He tries to say they don't, well, the undressed women don't work there anymore. The schedule has changed, but that's called bullshit. He is running the show on every level. And I think, with most respect, I think you're a partner who is not buying into, I think you partners hear what you want to hear, which is, I'm doing my best. I mean, why wouldn't you? I'm doing my best. I'm working on it. If it just wasn't this job, if it just wasn't that, but that's not happening anymore. And you got to trust me and you got to believe me. And that would be nice if you hadn't been betrayed for years. That would be nice if you hadn't been lied to for years. At this point, and one of the things I did write about in Doghouse, the reason why that book is called Out of the Doghouse is because you're no longer equal in this relationship. Since this person has been lying and cheating and hurting and violating, you now get to set some of the boundaries. Now, you can't tell them what to do, but you can say, I'm not sure, I'm not willing to be living with someone who's hanging out in stripper bars and drinking, or whatever kind of bar that might be. And all due respect to sex workers. So everything that I see here is basically this. I'm going to keep doing what I want to do, and I'm going to give you excuses for every single thing, and to the point where I'm going to make you doubt your own feelings, your own sense of trust. You had to come here to ask us something which I think is pretty clear. If you drink, you don't hang out in bars. If you have a problem with sex workers, you don't hang out in strip. So the bottom line is, I think you're hearing a big line of BS and you're being sold it, and probably to all of you spouses with empathy, because who doesn't want us to get better? Who doesn't want us to heal with you? I think also, last thing I'm going to say is, I don't think you've quite run into your anger yet. I think there's a point, and really, if I could recommend it, one of the free groups for betrayed partners. This feels to me like someone, and you know about this from the amazing workshop that you did and weekend retreat you did with these women. But I think that you have not hit yet the this is completely unacceptable to me, and I will not live with this, period. I don't think you've reached that point yet. And as a result, you're more looking at, well, he's trying to fix this and he isn't fixing that. And rather than, what can I tolerate? What is okay with me? How can I be the healthiest and most peaceful at peace that I can be? And I got to tell you, if it were me, it wouldn't be living with this. Tammy?
Until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, no addict will change. And that's just the truth. And right now he can do his lies and dance all around, and he gets to continue to work and drink, and he's not willing yet to give up the problematic behavior. So okay, Dr. Rob, you ask what a woman may be thinking when choosing to stay and not blow up her life, even if her spouse stays in active addiction. I'm one of those women. The answer is intact self-esteem, a lot of inner safety work, and a strong belief that my higher power has a plan. I stay as long as I can learn and grow and reach my potential. In adversity, there can be a lot of unique growth. A sex addiction is an opportunity with the right internal boundaries and physical boundaries, etc. I agree. Yeah.
So here's the deal. I am the last person in the world, the last at the bottom of the list of anyone who would say to a man or a woman, why do you stay? I have written a book specifically to challenge the concepts like codependency, which say you shouldn't be there, or you can't really heal until you just focus on you and let them, I think there's a lot to learn here. And the reason you stay, and that's what prodependence is all about. I know why you stay, because you love them. And if you do have enough healthy boundaries, physical and mental, then you can't get what you can out of the relationship and stay away from the rest. It doesn't mean it's ideal. I've worked with couples, Tammy has, they've been together 40 years. They have a whole lot more going on than just cheating. They have family, they have church, they have kids, they have a life together, they have retirement. I mean, they have all kinds of things. And I don't know that you'd want to, in fact, I'm sure you wouldn't necessarily want to blow all that up because your partner screwed up. So, no, I don't have any questions about why you would choose to stay. I understand completely. You love this person and you want the relationship to get better, or you're willing to stay in it, whatever it can be. I want to acknowledge to all you spouses that this is a woman in recovery. This isn't someone who's in denial and say, well, I'm just going to stay because I know it's going to get better, and if I just, go to enough therapy. This is someone who's saying, I see and understand my reality, and I am choosing, not out of desperation or fear. I am choosing to stay in it and choosing to take care of myself while in it. And I have boundaries. I assume if this person brought someone back to the house to have sex while you were home, that probably wouldn't be a good thing. But I really, and to those of you who can't imagine it, I can understand that, but I completely respect what this woman has said. And again, if you want to throw in prodependence, Tammy, I'd appreciate that. I did write a book about this, acknowledging that people stay not because they're crazy, people stay because they are healthy, as long as they're setting good boundaries for themselves. So I love this one. I think it's really respectful of yourself and what you've shared with this other person. And yes, you can, to some degree, take what you like and leave the rest, as long as you are very protective of yourself and have a lot of support. Tammy, I mean, this is like the person who stays with the alcoholic.
Yeah.
Just because they're drinking
And
doesn't mean you have to leave. Sorry,
no,
Tammy.
no, I agree. Like we are, I know lots of people who choose to stay, even if he, and I'm using he and she, even if he is not in recovery, and as long as they are taking care of themselves and their entire life isn't focused on what he's doing, so that there is no joy and no peace for them, all good. It's everybody's journey. We are we are not judgmental. We are here to support and help, and that's why we have all of these resources. I added the books, including Prodependence, but you'll see, like for the other person, Sex Under the Influence, Dr. David's new book, for the person who has a spouse who's drinking, and that would be a great one because it's sex and chemicals, including alcohol. That could be a really good book. And he did a webinar on our site too, in February. He did the second week of the month. So, okay. So next question. 12 years with an addict, but he only came clean 2 years ago when I was going to leave him. That's when he admitted about the abuse. He got into a 12-step program and he is working with Seeking Integrity. I'm assuming that means like our online work group, because, not residential treatment. So working with us, that's completely different than treatment. So I'm going to clarify that. But he is still lying to me, and he is lying about the actual truth. He was abused by his sister when he was younger sexually. I feel so manipulated, and I have been so used. I feel so very hurt. I just don't know which way to go. So every guy that comes to our residential treatment program has, oops, there went Dr. Rob. So every guy that comes to our residential program has underlying issues, and sexual abuse can be part of that story. Not always, but can be part of that. And so that can be part of the reasons. Lots of guys know the reasons why, and they still act out. So that, to me, and Dr. Rob would say the same thing, is not the question to answer. It's how do I move forward? If it's our online work group, that's once a week for 90 minutes, live facilitated for 6 weeks. That isn't enough. But you said 12-step program. But when I hear somebody who's struggling like this, there goes Dr. Rob again. Then maybe a higher level of help is in order. I included in the chat the online self-assessment. Somebody who scores a 5, that's completely different than somebody who scores a 15. But if what he's doing now isn't enough to have him really get into solid recovery, then there needs to be more. And even with those resources, I don't hear a qualified professional like a CSAT, which could be, another component of this as well. So,
you lost me.
I
I
did.
think we're,
So
I'm going to reset my routers and I can't do it now. But I really wanted to say something about that question.
please
And then I
do.
got, can you
Yeah.
please repeat it? I'm sorry. I
Because
can't
now you
see it.
can't see it. I was afraid of that. Okay. So 12 years with an addict, but he only came clean 2 years
Right.
ago when I was going to leave
I
him. Then
remember
he
what I was
admitted
going to
about the
say.
abuse. Okay.
This is someone who needs residential treatment.
That's what I said. Okay.
This is so, oh, really? I didn't know. This is someone who needs to be in a treatment center. Feel free to call TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. I think, and I don't know why Tammy said it because I didn't hear it, but I love that we come up with the same answer and we're not even listening to each other, Tammy. This is someone who really needs the kind of help that comes with higher level experts. They need to sit with people like me and not go anywhere and not be on the computer and just be getting help. I don't know how much this person realizes they're going to destroy everything they have, but what I see is a road to a lot of pain and a lot of destruction, and it's very sad to me. And guess who's leading the pack? Guess who's driving the bus right over the cliff?
It's
And
not
that's
over the cliff.
Claff.
It's not over the cliff. Driving the bus over the cliff. Yeah.
What
Anyway,
is it?
no, 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 no. Never mind. I was just
Okay.
going like we're not going over cliffs.
Oh,
So,
okay. So I'm just saying he's the person who's destroying the things that he could be healing.
oh,
So um, not
I had a
driving.
Thelma
Well,
and
anyway,
Louise moment. Sorry. So,
that's
okay.
okay. It's hard
Okay.
catching up. So why
Yes.
don't we do one more? I need to hear you read it. Sorry.
Okay, so because I typed in an answer, but this is a great question too, and I'm hoping we can do a couple more because there's only two more after this. Watching porn was clearly a betrayal to my wife. I understand now because of your podcast, but literally every guy I know watches porn. They definitely don't tell their wives. I don't think I watch any more or any less than my friends. How do I know if I'm using it to cope?
Well, I don't think that's the right question. I think, in fact, I think there's several fallacies in what your statement is. Number one, I don't care. I don't know what other guys do. People, I don't know if you've ever been in a locker room, but people say all kinds of things. Oh man, I look at porn all day long. And do they really? Have you been at their house when they're watching porn? Do you know that their spouses know about it? Do you know? I mean, so I think comparing myself to what other people say they're doing, especially other men who are bragging about their sex lives, I'm not sure. Number two, you don't need to stop or start because of what other men do. Your wife is upset. Instead of justifying, and which is what you're doing, I should be able to, this is what I hear. I should be able to look at porn because that's what other guys do, and their wives don't know about it. And so it's not a problem for them. Well, that's none of your business. What is your business is you are married and involved with someone who doesn't like it and who is upset about it. And instead of listening to them and trying to understand what it means to them, you're trying to protect your ability to do what you want to do. So really, what is your priority? Is your priority to prove the point that guys can do this and lots of guys do that? And what's the big deal? You could maybe make that point. Or is the point to have a better relationship? And to be really listening to the person you love and having them feel understood, and maybe not do something that you find. Look, lots of people like to drink. Lots of people drink. Lots of people gamble. But if you got a problem with it, you don't get to do it in the same way as everyone else. And you have a problem, which is your spouse is not happy with it. And that alone is enough to begin to address. I don't know if it's an addiction or not, but I do hear you defending it really well over your relationship. And that makes me sad for your partner.
Okay, so there's a couple more, and I want you to hang in there with me. Okay, after no wait, my after years of begging my husband for recovery, he finally started 90 meetings in 90 days in a CSAT men's group. But I feel like I feel like I finally checked out. The more of these webinars and codependence meetings I attend, the more I recognize just how way worse this addiction and intimacy disorder is than I ever imagined. I know therapists don't recommend making major decisions for a year, but I lost all hope at this point.
Um, I don't hear that there's an action at the other end of that, which I've lost hope, therefore, or I'm going to, or so help me with your
So
thinking
what I
first, Tammy.
hear is I feel like I finally checked out. This feels like, we talk often, Dr. Rob, about like when a partner's, still going like, I want him to get help in all this, and, but when there starts to be ambivalence, on that, like I don't care. Yeah. I mean, now if he's actually, doing the work, then perhaps putting the relationship in safe harbor for a short, for a period of time. He's doing 90 meetings in 90 days. Maybe you'll see, there's a shift, and maybe you go, okay, I'm willing to, continue to take a look at this or not. You get to pick, like this is your journey, and it may be too late, little too late for him. I hope he gets on recovery and stays in recovery, regardless of what you choose to do or not do. But this is, I get it. You're worn out and tired, and he will never not be an addict. He can be an addict in recovery, and he can show up really differently or not. So, we have a residential treatment program. He would be a good candidate for that because he'd get a solid foundation in a much shorter time. That's just one option. But regardless of what he does or doesn't do, you get to pick what you choose to do. So that's my two cents on that.
I'm writing something down.
Uh-huh.
Number one, if you're going to go to treatment, please come to Seek Integrity. I can't
Yeah.
tell you, and I just got to say that, how many folks say, I loved your podcast. Really interesting to listen to you and Tammy. I went to this place for treatment. That's really frustrating for us. A part of why we give all this away is so that we are able to give all this away by doing our work. And so I would just really appreciate, just to the group, if you're looking for help, please give us a ring. I just
And
had to
there's
say
no
that
more
because
expert treatment. I mean, you don't know how many people go to other places and then come to us. Come to us first. Get the help that you need. So anyway.
So the answer to the question is, it's interesting to me. Oops, shoot. Bet you can't hear me.
I can hear you. Can
Bet
you hear me? Okay. He'll be right back. I promise. So don't leave, because there's one more question after this too. Can you hear? I can hear
I want
you.
to answer this question.
And I want you to answer the next one too. So please.
If I can stay on. So it's not unusual at all for me to talk to a partner. I do these consultations and I'm online with folks for a couple of hours, often more than Tammy would like. They're supposed to be 2-hour consultations, but they end up being 3. And part of my job is to help a couple understand where they are and how they need to go forward. And one of the things I often tell the spouses, obviously, is go to some of the support groups. Go listen to what other women have to say, whether, what's going on, how are they dealing with it. And it's very typical for me to talk to that woman later. And she said, well, I stopped going to those groups. Well, why did you stop going to those groups? Because they were so depressing. Because I kept hearing about women whose lives were still struggling with this issue. This issue didn't go away. In other words, your hopes and dreams for what this might become in the healing wasn't what you thought it might be. And you're hearing a lot about the reality of it, which is it's painful. It's a struggle. It takes a long time. Some of these issues are fixed forever. And that is true. So, the question is, as Tammy said, and I want to say this, there are many ways to take a time out. You don't have to say my relationship is over. You can say, I want you to live with your sister for a while. Or there's something called a therapeutic separation, where you come together in therapy once a week and then you go about your lives separately. And then maybe over time you start dating. So there is the idea of restarting a relationship, maybe not continuing the one you have, but beginning to inch into a new relationship. So I would ask you to not think necessarily black and white, but more in the grays. What are choices I can make that'll make me feel safe and still watch this and sort of stand back and see if this is going forward? I do think that decisions made out of this kind of emotional state, you may regret later. And so I'm not saying, do this or don't do this. I'm just saying, take your time and make sure that you have your own self right with you, and that you're making a decision that's not out of anger, hurt, or disappointment, or just wanting to be done with the whole thing because it's overwhelming, but because you really don't want to be with this person anymore. That is a big.
Don't leave. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Dr. Rob? I really want to get to the last question. I'm going to see if he comes back. I hope he does. Otherwise, good. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to read it. This is
Last
for
question.
you. I know, I promise. My SA husband has sex with men and women. He denies being bisexual and says he is disgusted by his actions when acting out. Can you help me understand?
Well, I'm not sure which part to help you understand. What disgusts him? That he keeps secrets, that he lies? Is it that he sleeps with men or has sex with men? Is it? And I guess the one thing that comes up for me is there's a little bit of poor me. Poor me. I don't know what this means. Poor me. I just hate myself. And what about you? You're the one who's getting cheated on, violated, unsure of your husband's sexual orientation. I think you have more things to be concerned about than he does. And this does feel a little bit like flipping the switch onto, well, but honey, I'm just so troubled and I don't know what to do. And don't be too angry with me because I'm really trying to figure this out. And I don't think that in fact, I don't even think that's the issue at all. Men, women, who cares? I don't have. I hope he's not having sex with teddy bears, but it doesn't matter. What matters is honesty, commitment to the relationship. Not all of his problems and what he's struggling with, but what is going on with the two of you, and how is it making you feel? Do you feel safe? It's not the men or the women or the label. It's how are you treating each other? Is there respect? Is there dignity? And is there honesty? That can be restored. Whatever this is can be discussed later, but not before there is a commitment to being real and honest. And you know what? He can just feel bad about this. What I would feel bad about is the person I love is cheating on me. That's
He's
what I would feel.
disgusted by the men, but like apparently is okay with cheating on her
Right.
with women. To me, like,
Right, right,
no.
right, right. Poor baby. And
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
way,
no,
I'm
no.
so disgusted that I keep doing this over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I don't want to get
addiction.
help. I don't want to get real help, which is, I mean, like these are the kind of clients, again, I've put in several times the online, self-assessment, but those are the clients, that we work with or can work with. If somebody scores a low score on the self-assessment, there's lots of resources and we can help you find those. But when somebody's scoring higher and when there's this kind of behavior, there's reasons why it's disgusting to him and he keeps doing it and putting your body at risk. I typed in, please get an STD test, like please take care of, don't listen to, oh yeah, they were all fine and whatever. No, go take care of your own personal safety. That's part of your physical safety. So I'm really sorry. That to me feels like a higher acuity, issue. And again, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to share
And my
resources about
last
our
comment
residential
is you're
treatment.
being just my
Oh yeah.
manipulators. You are being manipulated into
Yes,
feeling sorry for
completely.
him rather
Yeah,
than looking at the reality of what's being done to you.
yeah,
And with
yeah.
that, Tammy, I'm going to go before I freeze again. Thank you for
Yes.
all your
All
help,
right.
Tammy.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everyone.